Well, good morning, everybody. It's Barb Katie here, and I'm so happy to be with you again. I have been spending some time this morning getting ready to talk with you. And one of the things I was thinking about was thinking. Uh, and I asked myself this morning, am I a rational thinker? And what brought that about was the line in the TOPS pledge that many of us say at some point in our meetings or think about throughout the week is, I will control my emotions and not let my emotions control me. And I thought, well, if you think about things rationally, maybe that would be helpful in getting a handle on your emotions when they flare up. All of us have various intensity, degree, level of emotions, depending on what's going on in our life at any point in time. And I wonder if I can consciously pay attention to and then deliberately shape what I think, which will in turn shape my moods and help me stay more positive and more forward thinking about changes I'm going to make in my life. Here's where I try to look at those awful, you should do this, and substitute them with things like, I want to do this. Where I try to not think in absolutes, like I will always do this, I will never do this again, I will keep this on forever. You can't predict those types of absolutes. Life is too variable and can change on a dime. Also, can I eliminate blowing things all out of proportion, making it seem awful and disastrous when really in the broad scheme of things, it probably wasn't quite as intense as those feelings might be. To keep myself from feeling trapped or overwhelmed, victimized, or just plain miserable. It's not that I want to think like an automaton, a walking head with no feelings, but that I learn how to use my emotions as information rather than feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or self-critical. For the most part, I think we all do a reasonably good job of this and have a rounded perspective overall much of the time. I don't attempt to micromanage every thought or feeling. Rather, I consider generally what my usual mindset or my current state of mind is. I have been able to find at least 5 common ways not to be rational, and I'll share those with you. Maybe one of them has flared up for you from time to time and sort of gotten in the way of the progress you were trying to make or what you were trying to accomplish. The first one is feeling anxious. And I think all of us at some point in time has experienced feeling anxious about something that was pending, currently going on, or coming up very soon. It's where you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it, whatever it might be, and worrying about it. I know I used to do an exercise where if that would happen for me, I would make myself get up out of bed and stand beside the bed and worry as much as I wanted to about it until I was done and was willing to get back in the bed and go to sleep, because that was what the bed was for me to get a good night's rest. This type of anxiousness is usually thinking about the future, what ifing everything, anticipating a disastrous outcome, butterflies in the stomach type of thing. That's not rational. And then being depressed, and depression is so powerful for so many of us, and some of us struggle with it, and constantly. If anxiety is about the future, often depression is about the past, about mistakes that may have been made, regrets we might have, roads we didn't take that we could have. For many of us, even more than about being thoughts about the past, it can also be feeling trapped where you are, stuck at the bottom of a well with no way out. Maybe it has to do with relationships, with jobs that aren't satisfying, with not having a sense of purpose, with feelings of loss. Here's where I think a lot of us sometimes experience thoughts like, it just doesn't matter. Why bother? Nothing's ever going to change. The other shoe is always going to drop. The world is gray. Again, often these feelings are real, very real, and need to be examined and addressed. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Another one for me that I find sometimes blocks progress and rational thought is feelings of anger. That whatever happened was unfair in some degree or wronged me in a way. It's a raging fire that's burning and demands some type of action, some type of release, some type of venting of the valve. That gets in the way very often of critical thinking and making clear plans. Another one that is not rational thought, but thought nonetheless, is being fearful. If anxiety is worry, everyday fear is often linked to childhood experiences that we carry with us into adulthood, things that taught us from the time we were children, sometimes for no sane reason, to withdraw, to feel insecure, to feel small, to feel we were walking on eggshells. And that generated ways of appeasing others and avoiding confrontation. And it opens up childhood wounds. Very often people will say, you know just how to push my buttons, which can lead to feelings of fear, feelings of anger, even feelings of rebelliousness, which is, again, another emotion or response that gets into the way of rational thinking. And just like fear, being rebellious can have that little kid element in it as well. It's that, well, you can't make me, I don't wanna, where you stomp your foot and, just set your shoulders like a petulant child. A little bit of passive aggressiveness, a digging in of your heels, if you will. These are the 5 big areas for me when I tend to derail what I consider to be rational thought. I'm sure there are many other feelings that you personally find disabling or distressful for you, and you would probably label things differently. But the point is that every thought we have is not always the most rational thought that we could have. The challenge is to keep ourselves from sliding into an emotional ditch. And if we do happen to slide into the ditch, that we find a way to pull ourselves out as quickly as possible and get back to more rational thought about what we're trying to accomplish. And I have 5 suggestions that I use, and maybe they'll help you sometimes if you find yourself not in a positive state of mind at the beginning of your day. The first one is sort of check in with yourself about how your state of mind is when you wake up in the morning and throughout the day, maybe. Ask yourself every so often, how am I doing? On a scale of 1 to 10, from happy to crummy, how's your mood? And hopefully, most of the time, you're going to be able to look at your state of mind and feel pretty happy and positive about how your thoughts about what you're accomplishing that day are. The next step would be to label your state of mind. If you find that you're creeping down to a 4 or 5 on that scale from 1 to 10, you might want to ask yourself what exactly is taking over. What's making me feel irritable or down in the dumps or worried or rebellious or ornery, or even feeling a bit intimidated and vulnerable. Often, if we can label the feeling and root cause, then we have the power to make a change. The third step is always to cool down and rebalance as quickly as you can. If I find my emotions are ramping up, I try very hard to put out some of the fire in the emotion before taking any action. I find that if I'm angry, that often what I need to do more than anything else is to go take a walk, to just physically let go of some of the stress that I'm feeling. And that gives me time to put things back into a better perspective. Maybe even writing something down would be helpful. Owning your feelings, writing them down on paper so you can look at them. Even punching a pillow might be helpful. I find if I'm getting anxious about something, taking deep breaths, several deep breaths in a row, is very calming, very soothing, helps me, again, keep my emotions under control, like it says in our TOPS pledge. The next thing I do, and this is really important, is trying to identify what the problem really is. Going through a cooling off process very often doesn't do anything to fix or to get to the root of the emotion. Usually what I have to do is ask myself, is there something I need to fix? Is there a problem creating these negative thoughts I'm having? Well, if I say yes, then I need to identify it and see what I can change so that my responses are different. I know very often things trigger other emotions that you thought you had dealt with and put aside, but no, it all comes back up, and you need to reprioritize again, and don't let your emotions pull you down. Bringing your score of 4 or 5 to a quick 9 or 10 gets easier the more quickly we're able to look at honestly what the root cause of whatever is triggering these responses is. Even frustration with yourself can be a real issue. Do you beat up on yourself? So many of us tend to do that. Rather than giving ourselves grace for whatever may be happening, we go on the attack and beat ourselves up. If that's the case and you can identify it, then you can let it go and gain some perspective and restore a more positive state of mind. The trick I have found is to be able to stay in a positive state of mind is to be able, whatever is happening in the moment, to look at the emotions we're feeling as information to tell us exactly what precisely is bothering us. And then once we can identify it, we can begin to modify whatever it may be. Sometimes it's not even the result of anything in particular. It may be something as common as lack of sleep, overall stress. There's nothing particular, but it is a culmination of a whole series of events that has brought you to a point where you're super sensitive. And you're engaging in what I call mental trash talk with yourself, which in turn goes a long way to creating a negative state of mind. If we can make a mental list or even a real list of these types of garbage can problems, the places where your head tends to go that lets you know you're stressed out, tired, or hungry. I get super critical of myself when I'm really exhausted. It's like, Barbara, you're supposed to be Superwoman. Don't you see the big red S on your chest? Just keep going. You can't give up. You can't let down. You've got to solve every problem that comes your way instantly. These are red flags that I've come to realize, and be able to identify the stress and the rabbit holes I tend to want to go down to with negative thoughts when I happen to be in this particular place. And that leads to the final thing, which is to solve the problem. Once you give your mind a chance to start to cool and real balance, you're more likely to identify the underlying problem. That's the time to plan action to put the problem and the emotion to rest. Maybe rather than continue to stream, you can find a way of expressing your thoughts, of letting them out. You might write a letter that you never mail. You may go off in private and talk to yourself about something that's really bothering you, where you choose not to share it with anybody else. Maybe you get some sleep to reboot your system rather than continuing trying to go on no energy. The key here is doing something, moving forward, and not wallowing in those emotions. Don't let them take control of you. Find a way to mitigate the damage that they're doing to your thought process. I really think that the more we're able to do this type of tracking, labeling, and solving, and just saying, what's my state of mind right now? How am I feeling about this day? And notice what's going on inside your head and your body, that we are going to be more quickly able to catch these shifts in mindset and set them straight, so that for the most part, we can stay out of the emotional ditch, just like the real run, if we just keep practicing. And for today, having shared this time with you, I am feeling so positive, and my mindset for the week is really solid about what I'm about to accomplish. And I want to thank you so much for spending time with me. I'm going to maintain a positive state of mind here in West Virginia. Have a great one. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.